John IV, also known as John Nestorius, was the 33rd bishop or patriarch of Constantinople. He was the first to assume the title ecumenical patriarch. He is regarded as a saint by the Eastern Orthodox Church, which holds a feast on September 2. Joannes was born at Constantinople of artisan parents, and worked as a sculptor. In 587 or 588, he summoned the bishops of the East in the name of the ecumenical patriarch, to decide the cause of Gregory, patriarch of Antioch, who was acquitted and returned to his episcopal see. Pope Pelagius II solemnly annulled the acts of this council. In 593, John was severely blamed by Pope Gregory I for having allowed an Isaurian presbyter named Anastasius, who had been accused of heresy, to be beaten with ropes in the Church of Constantinople. In 595, the controversy was again rife about the title of ecumenical patriarch. Gregory wrote to his legate Sabinianus forbidding him to communicate with John. In the case of a presbyter named Athanasius, accused of being to some extent a Manichaean, and condemned as such, Gregory tried to show that the accuser was himself a Pelagian, and that by the carelessness, ignorance, or fault of John IV, the Nestorian Council of Ephesus had actually been mistaken for the Orthodox Council of Ephesus. Works. Isidore of Seville attributes to him only a letter, not now extant, on baptism addressed to Saint Leander. John, he says, propounds nothing of his own, but only repeats the opinions of the ancient fathers on trine immersion. There are, however, several works attributed to John IV still extant. His penitential, Libellus Poenitentialis, or, as it is described in Book 3 of the work of Leo Allatius, De Consensio Utriusque Ecclesia, Praxis Graicis Praescripta in Confessione per Agenda, Instructio, qua non modo confitens de confessione piae integri edenda instituitur, sed etiam sacerdos, qua ratione confessionis excipiat. Poenitentiam imponit a reconciliationem praest et informatur, homily on penitence, continence, and virginity. It is often printed among Chrysostom's homilies, but now agreed not to be Chrysostom's. Montfaucon, Vossius, and Pearson held it to be by John the Faster. Morel and Saville printed it among Chrysostom's works. Homily on false prophets and false doctrine. It is attributed occasionally to Chrysostom, by Peter Wastel to John of Jerusalem, disambiguation needed, but by Vossius, Petavius, and Cave to John the Faster. A set of precepts to a monk, in a manuscript at the Paris Library. The Orthodox in the Middle Ages always attributed the first two of these to the Patriarch. The Canons of the Faster. An important section of the Eastern Orthodox canon law is attributed to John IV, i.e., the so-called Canons of John the Faster and the Canonicon attached to them. They can be found in both Greek and Slavonic versions of the canon law, notably in Theodore Bolseman's collection and in the Pedalin of Nicodemus the Hierite. The German Byzantinist Georg Beck analyzed the canons and concluded that they were probably written partly by followers of Basil the Great and partly by John Chrysostom, whereas the Canonicon dates from the 10th century. These writings are interesting as they reflect in detail on the sexual morals as they generally were held prior to Thomas Aquinas, e.g., that sodomy was not thought of primarily in same-sex terms but in terms of anal intercourse. Sodomy between husband and wife was penance more severely than sodomy between unmarried males. Mutual masturbation, regardless whether it was between members of the same sex or not, was penanced with 80 days exclusion from communion. It shows that not only extramarital sex is considered sinful but also certain sexual practice within marriage, and that the same-sex aspect in sodomy is mitigating rather than aggravating.